Warpugs, it's time for some Count Dankula again. Guys, it's been a bit since I checked him out. This is Absolute Mad Lads, and this is the Nightmare POW Charles Hazlitt's Upham. Now, it has been a bit since we've watched anything from Count Dankula. I don't know why I haven't gotten back to some of these requests. I know there's a good amount of men, but I do appreciate you guys submitting those requests. I really do. I try to get to requests as much as I can. We're going to get into this one now. Guys, Count Dankula, he is the purveyor of all things insane. Let's get into this. The absolute mad lad himself, Charles Hazlitt's Upham. Let's go. All links are going to be in the description down below, right next to my own. Feel free to support the channel by becoming a member or becoming a Patreon for early access. Let's jump in.
Nothing forges heroes quite like the fires of war. And with that heroism comes awards and glory. But today's mad lad wasn't interested in any of that. Despite spending World War II saving lives, dodging enemy fire on a regular basis, and constantly getting into Houdini-esque hijinks with prison guards, this mad lad's greatest challenge was trying to avoid taking credit for a laundry list of heroics.
Now, I can already tell I'm going to like this, and this is going to be another one of those situations where I learn about somebody in history that I look at Hollywood and I'm just sitting there like, why am I getting some of the crap like I'm getting as far as shows and movies, and you're going to ignore this person that whose story would be kind of like Desmond Dawes, where you have to take things out of the recounting of what happened to him and the things that he did in order for the audience to actually believe what they're seeing on the screen and what actually took place.
Captain Charles Hazlitt Upham.
McGrath. I love this guy's intro, I swear to God. I love this intro.
But before we get into the mad lad, this video was brought to you by Raycon. Raycons provide premium wireless audio for around half the price of its market competitors. The company was co-founded by Ray J and has been endorsed by celebrities like Mike Tyson, Rich the Kid and Snoop Dogg. And Raycon's wireless everyday E25 earbuds are their best ones yet, with 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass and a compact design for a comfortable noise isolating fit.
Yes.
They come in a range of fun colours and patterns and with a 45-day free return policy. So get yourself some Raycons at my link down below, buyraycon.com/Dankula to get 15% off your order. Charles Hazlitt Upham was born on the 21st of September 1908 in New Zealand, and he was the son of a lawyer. He was educated at Christ's College, where some of his defining traits began to manifest.
I think I already know where he's going with this. We're about to find out that this guy was a hooligan.
Upham was nicknamed Pug. Good nickname.
Yes!
Some racist connotations, but we can let that slide.
What?
And he was described as displaying a spirit of mild belligerence towards things he did not believe in, which was demonstrated by how often he stood up to bullies. Upham earned a diploma in agriculture at Lincoln College in 1930, and he worked as a farm manager and musterer for 6 years. According to his boss, Upham was very kind to all of the animals that he worked with, and he very often went out of his way to get them a little extra feed.
Yay.
In 1935, he met Molly McTamney, and they got engaged in 1938. During this time, he also got a job with the New Zealand government's land valuation department while he was doing a postgraduate course in valuation and farm management.
Okay.
But then, in September of 1939, destiny came calling as World War II started, and Upham volunteered to join the army, joining the 20th Battalion of the 2nd New Zealand Expeditionary Force. Upham shipped out to Egypt in December and was quickly promoted to sergeant before seeing action in Greece and then withdrawing to the island of Crete, which the Germans invaded on the 20th of May 1941. And from this point onwards, Upham fought like an absolute unit and got really busy over a period of 9 days.
Okay.
Despite having little artillery, no air support, and no communications, Upham led his platoon in a counterattack on Malem airfield under the cover of darkness, advancing over 3,000 yards without any support.
Oh!
And during this advance, Upham managed to destroy 4 enemy machine gun turrets with hand grenades. When the attack failed, he helped with the evacuation of wounded soldiers, demonstrating great concern for the well-being of his men and putting himself at great risk to help those under his command.
Good man.
When Upham was ordered to send his 2 best men to go across and lead out an isolated German platoon 600 yards deep in German territory, he instead put a corporal in charge of his platoon and did it himself.
That's a good leader. That is a good leader. This job is nearly suicide. I will do it myself. That is the mark of a good leader.
Because it was, and I quote, too dangerous to give to anyone else. And on his way to do this, Upham killed 22 German soldiers.
Ugh.
But he didn't get out of this unscathed.
Of course not.
His shoulder was wounded by mortar fire, and he also caught a bullet in the foot. During another mission, when 2 Germans managed to get the drop on Upham and fired on him, he dropped to the ground and played dead. Then, with one of his arms in a sling, Upham used a tree to support his rifle and waited for the right moment. The right moment came, and he fired, killing one of the Germans. Upham then reloaded his rifle with a single hand and then shot the other German. And the other German had actually managed to get so close that when he fell, he landed on the rifle's muzzle. And also, Upham managed to do all of this while suffering from dysentery. Despite his protests, Upham was among those evacuated to Egypt on the 31st of May, where he recovered from his injuries and was promoted to captain.
Yeah.
Now, if there is one thing that Upham did not like, it was praise. He did not like being praised. He saw himself as just a normal man doing his duty.
Some people do not value, well, I'm not going to say value. Some people do not see their actions. They're humble. They don't see their actions as being anything that anybody else would not or should not be doing already. So I kind of get where he's coming from with this.
So he was absolutely horrified to find out that he had been awarded the Victoria Cross, which is the highest award for gallantry in the face of the enemy. Upham said that this award was for his men because he believed that they deserved it more than he did.
Nice.
And he only accepted it on behalf of those he fought with. And as you would expect, his citation for the Victoria Cross was absolutely stacked with feats of bravery, saying that he had, and I quote, performed a series of remarkable exploits showing outstanding leadership, tactical skill, and utter indifference to danger. In mid-July 1942, the Germans attacked Ruysat Bridge during the First Battle of Alamein, but Upham remained fearless despite being out in the open and under heavy fire. It was here that Upham really demonstrated his leadership capabilities, as he put himself at great risk to check on and shout encouragement to his men, which even spurred on his commanding officer. Upham then managed to single-handedly overrun several enemy machine gun posts, and he also managed to destroy a literal truck full of German soldiers with hand grenades. Although he did slightly wound both of his arms from his own grenades in the process. Whenever Upham needed to get intel to advanced units, he drove to them himself in a jeep with a German machine gun mounted on it, straight through enemy lines. And at one point, he got his jeep stuck in the sand, most likely due to the weight of his balls of steel. And so he ordered some nearby soldiers to push it out. However, these soldiers were Italian, and they were pretty surprised to be receiving orders from an enemy soldier.
As one would be.
They did it anyway. They helped him get his jeep unstuck. We have no idea why they helped him.
This is why eventually the Germans didn't trust the Italians to get stuff done.
But they did. Maybe they recognised him and thought, Jesus Christ, that's Charles Upham. Just get him in his jeep and get him the hell out of here, right? We don't want that kind of trouble. The man was such a Chad that he could literally command enemy soldiers.
There you go.
Upham then used the intel he was delivering to lead a successful bayonet charge against the Germans, but he was shot in the arm, shattering his left elbow. He then had the broken arm dressed and returned straight back to the fight, fighting against overwhelming odds in the German counterattack, until he was left unable to walk due to taking mortar shrapnel to the leg. Upham was then captured by the Germans. Only he and 5 others in his company survived the attack. Upham's action...
A company usually contains... Oh god, that's losses that are atrocious.
In this battle went on to earn him a bar and another Victoria Cross, making him the 3rd person to earn the Victoria Cross twice and the only combatant to do so. Upon hearing about the recommendation, King George VI was sceptical, since earning 2 Victoria Crosses so quickly was such an incredible feat.
Right.
So he asked Major General Howard Kippenberger if Upham really deserved it. And the Major General replied, "In my respectful opinion, sir, Upham won the Victoria Cross several times over." Upham was very badly wounded when he was captured, and he recovered as a prisoner in an Italian hospital. The Italian doctor wanted to amputate his arm because they were too poorly supplied to prevent gangrene, but Upham refused because the amputation would have been carried out without anaesthetic.
Oh, no.
And this was a decision that likely saved Upham's life. But luckily, an Allied POW doctor dressed his wound and prevented it from becoming gangrenous. But after recovering, Upham's time as a prisoner was a very painful and difficult experience.
As one normally is.
For the Germans. As we learned earlier in his life, Upham was an absolute nightmare for people that he didn't like. And he did not like the Germans. He messed with, inconvenienced, and infuriated them every chance he got.
This is what as one does.
While being transported through Italy in a truck, Upham tried to use a kitchen knife to saw through the floor of the truck. When this plan didn't work, he just yeeted himself out of the truck at a bend in the road and then bolted for 370 metres with a broken ankle before being recaptured. Another time, he was being moved between prison camps on a train under the guard of 2 Germans, and to stop him from trying anything funny, he was only allowed to go to the toilet while the train was travelling at high speed to stop him from jumping out of the window.
Really?
He jumped out of the window anyway. Oh, I love him. I love him so much. Unfortunately,
at some point, it's just like, why didn't they just shoot him?
Because the train was travelling at high speed, he knocked himself out when he landed on the tracks. The Germans simply stopped the train, walked back, picked him up, and loaded his unconscious arse back on the train. But the most iconic incident, the one that Upham is really well known for, happened during one of his very many escape attempts from a prison camp. The camp was surrounded by 2 fences.
Okay.
And in the gap between them were massive piles of barbed wire. Upham tried to climb to the top of the interior fence and jump from the top of it to the exterior fence so that he could escape and also avoid all of the barbed wire.
Yeah. He didn't make it.
Unfortunately, when he jumped, he lost his grip and fell into the barbed wire and became tangled. 2 German guards on patrol then discover Upham, just sitting there, tangled in a giant pile of barbed wire, you know, just chilling. So, the Germans ordered him to get out. And the Germans trying to give Upham an order was their first mistake. Upham instead just laid back, you know, just
chilling.
Just laid back in a giant pile of barbed wire and said to the 2 guards, "Come in and get me." This obviously infuriated the Germans,
as it
because
does.
They were too scared to go into the barbed wire.
Would you want to go in there with a nut job like this?
And actually get him. So one of the guards pointed his rifle in Upham's face. And Upham responded to this threat by lighting up a smoke, looking the German right in the eye and saying, "I refuse to be shot by a corporal. Bring back an officer."
The level of dickhead in this guy is incredible.
This man is currently relaxing in a giant pile of barbed wire like it's a Comfy Max 2000 luxury leather recliner, and a German points a gun in his face and he tells the German to go and get his dad. How is this man real? Surprisingly, the corporal actually obeyed Upham's order to speak to the manager. So the corporal brought Commandant Houtman Knapp, who ordered his men to take a picture of Upham as evidence so they could initiate disciplinary procedures against him.
Okay.
And look at this.
Oh my God.
At the absolute chaddery of this image. The chaddery of this image. This man is lying on barbed wire like a hammock on a sunny beach, smoking and laughing in the faces of German soldiers threatening to kill him. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is a man. It's funny how he looked more comfortable tangled in barbed wire with a gun in his face
than he did getting the damn Victoria Cross.
Receiving his Victoria Cross. But surely it's better to have a piece of brass stuck to your chest than a bullet. And speaking of which, Commandant Knapp actually knew about Upham's disdain at receiving the Victoria Cross. So Knapp held a fake ceremony to pin a replica Victoria Cross on Upham in an attempt to insult and humiliate him.
Didn't work.
In response, Upham spit directly in Knapp's face. After this escape attempt, Upham was
Gave him a proper salute.
placed in solitary confinement,
Of course.
where he was only allowed to exercise alone while being watched by 2 armed guards and covered by a guard in a tower with a machine gun.
Jesus.
They finally had him pinned down, as any wrong move would result in him getting torn to shreds. Or so they thought.
Okay.
Upham ran for it anyway. He ran for it anyway. Straight out of the courtyard, through the German barracks. Through the barracks. He ran through the barracks and right out of the front gate.
Nice.
Luckily, Upham managed to survive this because, in a display of good sportsmanship, the guard in the tower had decided not to shoot him out of sheer respect. But also because the guard could see German soldiers coming up the road to recapture Upham, so there really wasn't much point in shooting him.
The thing about it is, there's a certain thing with special forces and people that actually, operate inside of enemy territory. If you act like you're supposed to be there, or if you act like you're supposed to be there, people tend to not notice you. It's only when they really, really look that they notice anything is wrong. And I've seen this happen quite a few times. Now, this wasn't one of those situations, but I'm wondering if just the sheer act of him running through the barracks was enough to make the people in the barracks just be like, well, somebody's late for work. They would have never noticed something was wrong unless they actually saw him actually running past them.
This ended up being the last straw. The Germans had had enough of Upham's crap, so they sent him to Colditz Castle on the 14th of October, 1944, which is the place that they sent political prisoners and incorrigible Allied officers that kept escaping from other camps. Soon after arriving, Upham said to a fellow inmate, "What the hell is this place? It looks bloody awful to me." But despite the hardship of being stuck in the notorious Colditz, Upham gave as good as he got and continued to be an absolute pain in the arse for his captors. Unfortunately, he ended up staying here for a while because the place lived up to its reputation of being escape-proof. But then, despite Hermann Göring boasting that no Allied planes would ever fly over German territory, Upham got a helping hand on the 16th of April, 1945. Air raid sirens went off, and everyone was pretty surprised when American bombers showed up and started bombing the absolute hell out of the area. But Upham was in the courtyard as this was happening.
That's a bad thing.
And seeing the perfect opportunity to twist the knife a little and get the last word in, he walked right up to a German officer that he particularly disliked. And he said to the man, "Hey Eggers, you know what Herman said? Never any Allied aircraft to fly over Germany. Well, what do you think those are up there? Bloody ducks."
Dick move.
Oh, he's a cheeky bastard.
Dick
Even
move.
though most of the prisoners freed in the camp's liberation went straight back to Britain, Upham still had plenty of fight left in him, and he was prepared to join up with an American unit and get straight back to kicking arse.
And considering the way things were, I wouldn't be surprised if an American unit would be like, "Hey, get a rifle, let's go."
But to his disappointment, he was sent back to Britain instead.
Sadness.
The war was now over for Upham, but it wasn't all doom and gloom because he was reunited with his fiancée Molly,
Yay.
who was serving as a nurse. King George VI also awarded him with his Victoria Cross and Bar, which he accepted in a typically humble fashion, saying, "Naturally, I feel some pride in this distinction, but hundreds of others have done far more than I did. They could have given it to one of them." Upham and Molly then got married in Hampshire on the 20th of June 1945, and they returned to New Zealand by the end of the year. Upon his return to New Zealand, Upham was very embarrassed by the sheer generosity of his community, who came together and raised £10,000 to buy him a farm in
That is a ton of money back then.
recognition of his heroics, and adjusted for inflation, that today is worth £441,000. Now that is a huge amount of money that you could buy one hell of a farm with.
Yes.
This was an extremely generous gift that his community offered to him. But being the absolute saint that he is, he just couldn't accept the money. Upham instead used this money to establish a trust for the children of ex-servicemen to study at Lincoln University or the College of Canterbury, and this trust was known as the C.H. Upham Scholarship, and he helped 88 kids gain an education.
Dude.
He also used the leftover money to establish an award for gallantry within the community, with one recipient being a police dog handler who risked his life to rescue an inmate from the rooftop of a mental institution. Upham applied for a veterans rehabilitation loan to buy his own sheep farm, where he worked happily and quietly with his wife and 3 daughters. The farm also served as a horse sanctuary because Upham couldn't bear the thought of old farm horses being turned into glue. But despite all of this wholesomeness, Upham still had his grudges. He had a complete ban on any and all German vehicles and machinery from his farm. Upham absolutely shunned attention and was very adamant in downplaying his own role in the war, saying, and I quote, "I don't want to be treated differently from any other bastard." Despite the fanfare that came with his military honours and refusing all calls to run for public office,
This guy is incredible. This is another amazing story of somebody that you would have never known about.
Upham managed to settle down and enjoy the anonymity he craved throughout his military career.
There we go.
Although he did speak up in 1962 when he denounced Britain trying to enter the common market, saying, and I quote, "Britain will gradually be pulled down and down." Based. Upham later doubled down on this position again in 1971, saying, "Your politicians have made money their god, but what they are buying is disaster." If only he knew how right he was.
Oh, boy.
Unfortunately for Upham, his aggressively humble attitude combined with his heroism ended up resulting in what was probably his most harrowing capture in 1985.
Your Excellency, I'd like to apologise for intruding on your cocktail party this evening, but then you do know exactly why I'm here, don't you?
Yes, I do.
As a matter of fact, you've been a great deal of help in getting our subject here to Wellington tonight without the person being aware of what was about to happen.
Sabotage wasn't my long suit.
Well, you've been a tremendous amount of help. I need some more help, however. I wonder if... Sir, can I ask you, please, to read to me what it says on the cover of this book?
This is your life, Charles Upham.
Captain Upham. I would feel very privileged indeed if he would join me in a trip back to the Avalon television studios for what is going to be a very special television program. Thank you. It's a story of a man who has 2 Victoria Crosses.
An incredibly wholesome half hour of his old friends and war buddies talking about how amazing he is on national TV.
I cannot imagine. I have a hard time just dealing with YouTube comments telling me I'm doing something good. I couldn't imagine this crap.
To most people, this would be a lovely and heartwarming thing, but Upham absolutely hated being praised, so he was absolutely horrified by it. Upham retired in January of 1994 due to poor health. And sadly, he passed away on the 22nd of November that year at the age of 86. His funeral was carried out with full military honours in a cathedral with 5,000 people in the streets paying their respects. And he is buried at St. Paul's Church in Papanui. Whether he wanted to be one or not, Charles Upham really earned his status as a hero. considering his selflessness, concern for his own men, and complete disregard for his own safety for the sake of others. It's no wonder that this Kiwi Captain America was the most highly decorated Commonwealth soldier of World War II. He certainly earned his bronze statue that was erected in North Canterbury. Though I feel if he was still alive, he would be absolutely furious about that. Even though Upham said that he'd have been happier if he had never received the Victoria Cross because of all the expectations it put in him, and even though he said that all of his military honours are the property of the men in his unit, still, everything that he managed to accomplish in his life in times of both war and peace, and his strength of character throughout all of it, well, it's just truly inspiring. Thank you for your service, and everyone pay respects to this amazing man who looked his captors in the eye and told them, I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube! Everybody just...
Guys, I'm gonna tell you just like this, okay? I had good leaders when I was in the military, and I had some bad ones. Okay? If you're in the military, you know you have to take the good with the bad. I had people that would I honestly valued being around, and people that I took a lot from. And when I was put into a position where I was leading my group, I wanted to be like some of the ones that I had seen, take responsibility unto myself for them, and I tried to be the best that I could be. You can only try to be as good as you can be. Okay, that's the thing. You have to have good examples to strive towards. You have to have a reason. You have to have these things in place. And the good thing about Charles Upham is he provided a wonderful example of just someone who would not quit. Now, all that being said, he demonstrated a lot of qualities that I would love to see in a leader. I would have loved to see in a leader back then. The selflessness, you can always, when you're watching, if you want to know, in the military, when your leader gets promoted, and there is a ceremony for this. If it's not the captain doing the promotion, if it's a senior enlisted or an officer getting promoted, you can always tell what kind of leader they have been by who is putting on their new rank. And when you see that, if the officer that outranks them is putting, if they have the option to have people put on their rank for them, if the officer above them is putting on their rank, that's usually a sign of an issue. What you would want, I think, as a sign that you have done your job, that you have led your people correctly, that you have inspired their respect and inspired not only their respect but their trust and their faith. I would never want my officer to install my rank. I would never want that. I'd want my junior enlisted to do that, if they were willing. If I had attained a high enough rank, that's what I would want. It would have been a sign that, to me, that I had done something, because they don't have to do it if they don't want to. I had two leaders that got promoted when I was underneath their command, and neither one of them had their juniors put their rank insignia on them. And it was kind of telling both times. Now, the first one, I did not respect. I did not respect at all. The second one, I had a measure of respect for him, but there was no real, there was not a lot of, there was no real anything else. It was just a general grudging respect, and we had it for each other. And if the first one called me in and needed someone like me at his side, he would not have me. The second one would. The second one would. Because even though I don't like him, I do respect him. And even though I yelled at him on a number of occasions, even though me and him got into it on a number of occasions, I still respect him, and I think he understood that. I wanted that leader when I was in the military. I got a few of those who weren't directly with me, and one that I feel was very, very close. I got one leader that I thought was as close as I'm ever going to get to having a really, really true leader who was right there in my command structure. But yeah, this is the kind of leader that is just so above and beyond. Warpugs, thank you for joining me for this one. All account Dankula's links are going to be in the description down below. I hope you guys check him out. If you haven't already. Hit the like button, subscribe. I'll catch you guys next time.